Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon po sa lahat, wherever you are connecting for this PH webinar. And happy World UHC Day. My name is Dr. Jason Ligot from the PSPHP Technical Committee, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. Maraming salamat po for joining us in Talk PH, our webinar series for the PSPHP community. For our participants who are not yet members of the Philippine Society of Public Health Physicians, you may wish to consider applying to our society. Apart from being part of a growing and dynamic community of people passionate about public health, members are also entitled to different privileges such as exclusive webinars, events, and other activities. To join, please visit the link that's being shown on your screens right now. PSPHP po is open to all physicians, even non-physicians working in the public health field, including our students. This webinar is also accredited to provide 1.5 CPD units for our physicians. The link to claim the certificate of attendance will be shared towards the end of this webinar. PSPHP is also now the Philippine representative to the World Federation of Public Health Associations. Now, to officially start our webinar, may I please call on Dr. Lester Heroy, PSPHP Chairman of the Board of Trustees, for some welcoming remarks. Dr. Lester, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jason Ligot, and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to our esteemed speakers that you will meet in a few minutes from now. USEC OIC, Dr. Bev Hall, very good friend, and also Dr. Michael Campued, the president of PSPHP. And good afternoon to the members of the Technical and Policy Committee. I saw many of the names here. So thanks a lot for the support for Talk PH and for Technical and Policy Committee activities. In January, we will be calling again for volunteers to join the TPC, our most active committee in PSPHP. And welcome also to our colleagues and friends from Luzon, from Visayas Mindanao, medical doctors and not medical doctors, colleagues in public health, nurses, and from other careers and other disciplines. Without further ado, and on behalf of the PSPHP Board of Trustees and Execom, I welcome you all. Good afternoon and enjoy. May we all learn more about UHC on this day, this talk page. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lester. Now, before we start and I introduce our speakers, siguro a little bit of history, no, to provide some context to this afternoon's activity. Now, 10 years ago, on December 12, 2012, the United Nations actually unanimously endorsed a historic resolution urging all countries, including the Philippines, to accelerate progress towards UHC as an essential priority for international development. So since then, we have actually been celebrating World UHC Day on December 12 to raise awareness around UHC, universal health coverage, and provide a platform for dialogue and discussion as we work as one community towards ensuring health for all. The theme for this year is actually so important because the theme is building the world we want, a healthy future for all, especially as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic. It's also an important milestone because this year is the last time we'll be celebrating World UHC Day before the 2023 UN High-Level Meeting on UHC. Therefore, it's very important for us to continue driving momentum as we all work towards health for all by 2030. Now, as many of you are probably aware, in the Philippines, we have taken very big strides towards implementing UHC already, and we're now currently in the full swing of implementation of the UHC Act of 2019. Many reforms are already underway. Even more reforms are in the pipeline. And I'm sure some of you may have questions regarding the current status of implementation, what to expect, and how we can all participate in this very important piece of health sector reform. Now, with all of these reforms taking place, we at the PSPHP thought this might be a good opportunity for us to take a bit of a step back and have a moment, have a discussion, and reorient ourselves. Ano ba talaga ang UHC ulit? What are the basics around UHC? how does UHC support the aims and goals of this app, and also primary healthcare, which will be the strategy to drive the achievement of UHC in the Philippines. Now, we're very fortunate this afternoon to have not one, but actually two very esteemed resource persons who will guide us in this discussion around UHC and primary healthcare and give us a bit of a reorientation on the fundamental concepts surrounding these very important public health issues. Now, just to give you an idea of how this afternoon's webinar is going to go, we'll have two presentations. After each presentation, we'll have some time for Q&A, and then we'll move on to the next before we have our open forum. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please use the chat box, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. If you're watching us on our Facebook community, you may leave a question on the comments, and we'll try to get to those questions as well. Okay, now I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker who will give us a reorientation around the concept of primary healthcare, which is the main strategy for achieving universal healthcare in the Philippines. So, ano nga ba ang PHC ulit? Ano ba ang components of primary healthcare? Now, with us this afternoon is no less than the president of our society, Dr. Michael Campued, a health systems expert, also consultant to various local and international organizations, who will give us a talk about primary healthcare. So, Doc Mikes, how are you this afternoon? Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, baka naka-mute ka ata, Doc Mike.
I'm not. So am I coming in clear now?
Okay, now loud and clear po. Okay, very good.
Ayan. Okay. So I think yung connection ko, I'm really sorry. I think this is a bad time during a Saturday to be connecting.
No worries.
But make the best out of it. So far okay naman. Semi-stressed pero wanted stress.
Okay, very good. Good to hear, Doc. Okay, so please take it away. Ano nga ba ulit ang primary healthcare, Doc? And how is this going to be our main strategy for driving our targets under UHC?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ace, for providing a very good introduction to how we want this discussion, this Talk PH to be. And I'm really glad that I'm sharing this this platform with my dear friend Bev. Kami naman ay matagal na magkasama sa pagsisilbi sa public health, and I'm really honored to be sharing this with her, and also honored with all the people that's here listening and taking the time on a Saturday. Can we go to the first slide, please? Hello? I'm sorry. Ace, yun
Okay.
sa ano kaya? Sa kanila yan, no? Or ako yung
hintayin
nasa?
lang natin, Doc Mike. I think we're figuring out lang the slides on our end. Pero I can hear you naman loud and clear.
Okay. So, all right. Can we project the slides? Salamat. All right. Can we go to the pa-project na lang, Mike? Okay. While we're waiting for the slide to be projected, anyway, this discussion is really going back to the to the foundations. Yes, Mike, hindi pa siya nagpo-project. Naka-project lang yung pero not as a projection.
Yeah, okay. Sige, so let's wait lang for them to sort that out.
So yun, the discussion that we will have now is to go back to the foundations. Ang isa sa mga na-encounter din natin, no? So for me, where I'm dealing with facing with some local implementers and also local chief executives, where we are trying to discuss with them how do we achieve better health for all, or health for all. it's oftentimes misinterpreted o kundi kaya ay nakikita nila to from a perspective that it's a lofty goal, no? And these are things that we are trying to parang debunk. Kasi what we do understand that health for all that declaration back in 1970. So in this talk, I'll start as a salvo to the discussion later on by Dr. Beverly Ho. How do we now look at primary healthcare and how is it the basis for UHC? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So yung pag-uusapan natin dito, let's try to look at the definition of primary healthcare and why is there an interest in primary healthcare at kung ano nga yung misconceptions natin and how can it be a strategy to achieve universal health coverage. Next slide. So back in 1975, there was this very important document, Health by the People, that was written by Kenneth Newell, of Liverpool School of Public Health, which became kind of the reference point where countries tried to discuss the broader aspects of health. And this was in the context that inequalities in health should be considered unacceptable. During this time, there was enough momentum, I guess, through the facilitation of Mahler, of WHO in trying to convene 134 countries in Kazakhstan to discuss health as a priority for the countries and for the globe. And dito tiningnan nila the work that was done and the discussions around how can we emulate the examples that were created by China for the barefoot doctors and the examples of Cuba and the examples in Jangked, India, Iran, Tanzania, and other countries that have tried to implement universal healthcare. And at this point, it was primary healthcare. And then in their discussion back in 1978, they made a very firm commitment that we need to address the inequality. And PHC was seen as a means to attain UHC. So it's not just a thing to do. No? So I'm referencing this line that was given by speakers from Johns Hopkins na sinasabi nga nila na hindi ito bagay na ito yung konsepto na hawakan. So it's a way to be. And it was a global health milestone to actually define primary healthcare. And primary healthcare was defined in this vision as essential healthcare based on practical, scientifically sound, socially acceptable methods and technology made universally acceptable to individuals, families, and communities, their full participation, and at a cost that the community and the country can afford to maintain every stage of development in the spirit of self-reliance and self-determination. Sobrang jam-packed. Pero as we try to unfold each line, means a critical reform in the way that we actually deliver care. And I think this was a very important aspect of the Alma-Ata Declaration because it encapsulated a vision. Paano natin mabibigyan ng mas magandang kalusugan ang lahat? Ito ay sa pamamaraan na sila din mismo ang magkakaisa para gawin ito para sa kanila. So for the people and by the people. And that is primary healthcare. Next slide. Next slide. So when we look at the declaration of Alma-Ata, it talks about population level response and also the multi-sectorality of the approach and the fact that it has to come from the grounds up. No? It's a bottoms-up approach and it's engaging the communities. And there is preference for those who are in need and marginalized. So this is parang kung sa atin sa ngayon sa pag-uusap natin, it's easy because we are also we are all essentially working within the sphere of public health, and also we are within the global discussions na, no, talking about these as if these are norm ideas. But back then, it was very difficult to understand for a lot of our leaders, no, how do we get ano talaga, no, everybody acting on health itself. And there were in this declaration, it also crosses boundaries. No, hindi lang siya an approach that needs no, a single country trying to address its own. It's everybody's business, and the fact that a lot of counterparts have to be done, no, by various sectors. It was also something that that was new. And it also became the foundation on no, horizontal governance, which means na no, we're spreading the power to resolve issues in health. So ikaw ay nasa engineering, if you're working within the policy sector, if you are working in I don't know, navigation, all of these have to have an approach that addresses health problems. Next slide. So next slide. Apologies for the difficulty. So what it means, key elements that are highlighted in ALMA-ATA of the primary health approach, as it was discussed later on in a lot of seminal materials that were created from the World Health Organization. And essentially, it talks about a whole of government and whole of society approach that reduces, it organizes services around special. So hindi siya nanggagaling doon sa hindi siya nanggagaling doon sa very medical perspective of giving health services. Ace, am I coming in clear?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, sometimes na medyo spotty yung audio natin. Maybe we can try cam off muna. Hello? To preserve bandwidth.
All right. Okay. Hopefully it's clearer now.
Yes,
okay.
Loud and clear.
All right. So and then ayun nga, no, there were waves of spreading the responsibility of health, no, into a model of collaborative leadership, no. Kaya it spurred also the discussions around health in all policies at yung even the modeling of health impact assessments, because everything has an impact to health. And if we are to summarize the main themes of primary healthcare, it's about multi-sectoral policy and action. It's about empowering and engaging people and communities, and also creating an equitable access to health through integrated primary care and essential public health functions as its core for services. So ito yung operational parang themes that were derived by the World Health Organization and UNICEF in their analysis of primary healthcare. Next slide, please. So bakit kadalasan nalilito tayo at nahihirapan? Sometimes it's about distinguishing the synonymized terms and being able to firmly characterize each of the concepts and then make use of it when we are deliberating with with our counterparts and also people who are non-health or non-public health. Essentially, in our in ALMA-ATA, primary healthcare is a vision. It's really a broader term encompassing the wider range of providers and services and functions and goals that bound health into a fundamental definition and aspiration for it. Pero when we talk about universal health coverage, that's the direction that we want to get to take, where all individuals and communities receive health services they need without suffering financial hardship. It's also different from the universal healthcare law, and being able to understand that the law is an expression of our commitment primary healthcare, but in essence, no, it was able to define a negotiated set of reforms, no, that will sequence the approach of the Philippines to gradual realization. So, yung primary healthcare as a vision is still very lofty, and a lot of translations still need to happen. And the goal of achieving coverage will entail certain instruments like this law that has I don't know, various tools that's actually very highfalutin and also complex, no, for a lot of us implementers, to really, I don't know, to really track our progress towards achieving universal health coverage. Another confusion is it's often confused primary care. The reason why it's also important to understand that because reforms that are primary healthcare focused should not be only on the clinical aspect of giving first contact care. When we talk about primary healthcare, let's look at the broader reforms around social determinants as well. No, so primary care is an important element, no, aspect of primary healthcare, but it's not essentially the whole term, the whole idea of primary. So hopefully this helps us as we try to discuss with our colleagues and also other people that are not from public health on how we should understand these various concepts. Next slide, please. Ngayon, ano naman yung myths and misconceptions? And this again comes from a discussion that was done by Johns Hopkins. Paano naman natin titingnan yung mga myths that are often interpreted with the implementation of primary healthcare? So first, the myth is that economic growth will equate to better health. So there is this famous Preston curve. So please click just to zoom it in. Click po tayo. So the Preston curve essentially indicates that individuals that are born in richer countries on average have a longer lifespan. And yung mga naman natin, mga may hirap has shorter lifespan but has a lot of reacts more significantly to any change in the level of investment or economic growth. But up to a point, no, as further the income increases, nakikita nila that the curve flattens out. Anong ibig sabihin nito, no? So essentially hindi naman directly related ang pera, health, no. There is relation, but the shifts in the elevation of the curve and also yung pagka-kinompare na natin yung curves between time periods, what they've discovered is yung higher curves, yung mas elevated life expectancy was actually noted towards the 20th century. And this is where they explain it to be attributed to better education, better technology, vaccination, and also oral rehydration, all things that are public health interventions, no, that actually changed life expectancy, not purely based on the amount of money, but on the process and also the types of intervention that were provided. Next, click please. So another myth is that financing access to high quality medical care is universal access to high quality medical care is the best way to use our money. Pero based on this slide that is being used by DOH right now, that 10 to 20% based on the SDH studies, 10 to 20% of our outcomes can be attributed to clinical services, but everything else are attributed to broader factors like socioeconomic, physical, and behavioral factors. No, so it's now debunking that myth na kapag nagpondo tayo sa clinical services that are high quality and yung parang mamahaling MRI or things like that, I think you all know this na hindi to exactly the best use of money, and that's the reason why health technology assessments right now are using a multi-framework analysis, no, that looks at both cost efficiency in terms of technical efficiency, but also looks at the lens of equity, no, that will allow us to further define our cost efficiency values, no. So kaya pagpili natin is not just sa medical kung anong pinakamaganda, pero kung ano talaga yung pinakanararapat sa taong bayan at mas katanggap-tanggap. Ayun po, the last is Alma Ata being and the primary healthcare concept being very lofty and impractical. And next click, please. I think we also have to be aware that while other countries that are also like us are able to actually demonstrate and achieve a level of implementation of primary healthcare that's causing ripples now in their health, no? Nepal, for example, now has expanded their investments in health to really maintain the volunteer health workers that expands the outreach of health services for primary level access and also continuous access to higher level care. At dito naglalaro na 60% ng national health budget nila ay ilalagay na sa health. And ganun din yung mga nangyayari in other countries like Ghana, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Cuba, saan mas nagfo-focus talaga sila in creating better outreach for people. And this was foundational for them to actually create big leaps in their universal healthcare outcomes. Next slide, please. So, ano naman yung kahalagahan of us understanding the primary healthcare approach in terms of our practice as public health practitioners? No? I think we also have to recognize yung earlier slide that I have said na there has to be an integration between primary care and public health. So, ganda nga, family physicians and also public health physicians must work together in closing the gap through integration of our models of care. Kasi we need to understand that primary care, which is the first access to care or first contact care, must link well with the panoramic level of services that looks at the epidemiology of populations, looks at disaster response, and also at how we respond to pandemics and disasters. These are public health functions, and once we have a marriage of these primary level access, both public health and primary care can stimulate universal healthcare implementation and achieve. So next slide, please. So how do we now see PHC as a cornerstone for universal healthcare? Next slide. So the operational framework, gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, was meant to outline our understanding on three things, and how we should approach the multi-sectoral approaches, the empowerment and engagement of people, and also the integration of primary care and essential public health. And I think it's a good reference for us public health practitioners to look at the operational framework for primary healthcare to guide us on how we are going to link this to achieving universal health coverage and also the sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. And this document provides us good guidance, no? Of course, these are guidance, not law or na dapat stricto nating susundin, but it's a very good guidance in actually looking at our contexts. By looking at the core strategic levers, whether we have enough political commitment or leadership that will guide our model of care, whether there is a governance framework, that supports the partnerships across sector, whether we have funding and allocation that is mobilized to promote equity, preferential universality, mas unahin natin ang mas nangangailangan, and engagement of the community and other stakeholders, performance accountabilities that are spread out, Hindi lang tayo nagsasabi na leaders in health ay tayo, kundi leadership in health is a role that is played by everyone. And the operational levers are also very important in actually looking at the various elements that we need to structure. Actually, itong mga to, tiningnan din namin dati nila Bev when we were conceptualizing the service delivery networks, and also back then when we were discussing public health agenda. And these operational levers have to discuss, firstly, the model of care that is responsive the sentiment of the Filipinos, paano natin ipapakita yung gustong serbisyo ng mga tao integration, through people-centeredness, ensuring no one is left behind. This is a model of care. And a lot of other pillars that we are all familiar with: infrastructure, workforce, medicines, governance and collaboration, all these things that are important to implementing primary healthcare. And it's oftentimes the reason why we confuse UHC and also PHC. But of course, there is a lot of overlapping elements between. Next slide. Ngayon, there is a very good effort now in trying to build a monitoring framework. And the PHCPI, or the PHC performance indicators, is being led by the same group, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, in building a monitoring framework that will allow us to create checklists of what we need to implement primary healthcare. I would like to point out now, on the side of outputs and processes, sa quality care, a big black box in trying to distinguish the indicators that are present in a lot of countries. Bibihira talaga ang tumitingin sa process around first contact accessibility, continuity, comprehensiveness, people-centeredness, access. So napakahirap siya kasi it's process-based indicators, but it's very fundamental in qualitatively understanding whether we really are achieving primary healthcare aspirations. Next slide, please. Ito yung mas, next slide. Mas komprehensibong listahan. But again, these are guideposts. It's important that we go back to the foundations of PHC para mas maintindihan natin which of these can be useful in our context. Next slide, please. And kapag titingnan din natin, it allows us to compare. And I think there were 27 countries that have already submitted their profiles. Sadly, the Philippines has yet to submit its profile of primary healthcare. So medyo mahina pa tayo in knowledge sharing and also tracking our progress in primary healthcare implementation. But thus far, pagka tinitingnan natin to, marami pang pagdadaanan, pero a lot of the greens are based on governance and quality. So medyo ito yung focus ngayon by a lot of countries. But when it comes to the level of input, the amount of work that is being done to access, still lacking, and service coverage, it's still lacking in general for a lot of these countries. Next slide. So ano ba yung criticisms ng primary healthcare? And maririnig natin to sa lahat ng mga mayors kapag pinag-uusapan ng universal healthcare as a concept and also PHC. Masyado siyang aspirational, masyado siyang complex, palaging fragmented kasi yung evidence sa pinanggagalingan din natin. So especially those sticklers for evidence, they would say na parang this is not the reform that is really evidence-based. Again, it's also an integrative policy, pero ang kinalulugaran niya is a segmented field. So gaya nun sa universal healthcare law, sorry if I'm emphasizing this, if we have to look at it in the context of the Philippines that is highly disaggregated, it's very difficult sometimes to imagine how it's going to be implemented. Another thing that's criticized is that oftentimes a lot of the way it is discussed and being framed is based on colonial and post-colonial structures. But in essence, if we get to the heart of it, I think it's in the right framing of motivation to really help the people. And if we are to go past the current colonial framing, we can on our own as Filipinos come up with our model of implementation. And I think that's what we're trying to achieve for quite some time right now. And part of the solution that I think is necessary is top-level leadership that's collaborative. Talagang ang pagpapatupad ng PHC. But it has to have a bureaucracy that's dynamic, that allows bottoms-up agency. Ang mga tao din na napakahirap gawin, pero sinasabi ko sa inyo, nakikita din natin merong lights in that various parts of the tunnel. Next slide. So its implication to Philippine UHC implementation is when we get to discuss the implementation of UHC law. And if we hold on to the values, the vision, and the concepts behind primary healthcare, we will be more principled and mindful in terms of creating a narrative that makes people understand that it's about people and communities. So kahit sabihin natin, hindi natin masyado, I've had this discussion recently with Samar, and there's a very good mayor that discussed na parang, hindi po namin kaya ipatupad yung gusto nyo dyan sa batas na yan, dahil po pagka ginawa namin yan, hindi na namin maaasikaso ang tao na nangangailangan, kailangan namin i-refer. Pero alam po namin na kami po yung may serbisyo, tapos yung kabilang pagpapasahan ay wala. So kung susundin natin yung patakaran na ginagawa or yung referral system na ginagawa, maaring mamatayan kami ng pasyente. And my response to that was exactly what we needed. A narrative that was very clear, that we want to save lives. No? And the negotiations or the trade-offs that we need to should be founded on that. And then in engaging this mayor, I validated na parang tama po iyon. So kung nakikita natin, hindi natin ito dapat ipasa basta-basta ang pasyente. Kailangan natin masigurado na magsusurvive siya. Pero sa kabila nito, dapat alam natin na hindi dapat ito yung regular na nangyayari. So, paano natin susolusyonan ito habang tinutugunan natin yung current problems? So, we need another thing is that we need an engagement that builds trust. So, there are various models, and the trust economy has to be higher. And ZFF has been building models of that binds the trust between implementers and decision makers. And we can replicate this in various situations. No, there has to be active coordination, and then we need to structure to achieve equity. No, we have to have preferential policies. Right now, while we are not yet equal, all of us, no, in the Philippines, we have to have preferential policies that favor the marginalized and the underserved. And I think later on, very conceptual ang pinipresenta ko, pero the reason why it's important for me to also relay it to you is the fact that what we're seeing now is that a lot of people are getting into the technicalities but are forgetting the foundations. So hopefully this helps in your discussions with your public health colleagues and also other implementers in pursuing our road towards UHC. Yun po, at maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Doc Mike. No, I think that was a very comprehensive introduction to primary healthcare. Particularly appreciate your discussion about the overlapping concepts. No, lalo na yung primary care. I think ako mismo, I will admit na I'm guilty of confounding the two terms together. And I think as we engage with more sectors, which is really, as you said, the spirit behind primary healthcare, it will be important for us to have a clear understanding of these different fundamental concepts. I also appreciate what you said about what you highlighted, that sometimes kasi when we get too much into a very conceptual discussion, then it all remains conceptual. And in fact, as you said, no, one of the common criticisms behind primary healthcare is that the idea is too up there, it's too lofty. When it gets down to the practicalities, then it kind of falls apart. But you said that there are many examples, not just in other countries, but even in the Philippines. And then maybe later on during the open forum, Mike, we can talk a little bit about what you've seen in the field and how these concepts are actually translated into practice. And last, syempre, because my background is in communication and health promotion, cannot agree with you more about your point about having a very compelling narrative. In fact, I just came from some work with the DOST where we're helping researchers do their elevator pitch to policymakers. So baka later, I hope you don't feel too much on the spot, no? Pero since you've had many of these discussions, ano ba ang elevator pitch natin when it comes to primary healthcare, especially when we're dealing with decision makers and frankly the political realities, no, of work on the ground. So I've been getting some questions already from our participants, and we'll get to those later. So just continue sending on those questions. You can either post them on the chat or you can send them to me directly. For those of you who are watching us on our Facebook group community, please leave your questions on the comment section, and we'll try to get to those questions as well. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this afternoon we have not just one, but actually two esteemed resource persons. So we already heard from Doc Mike about primary healthcare. Our second speaker is actually one of the founding members of the board of the Philippine Society of Public Health Physicians. She also just recently got awarded the TOYM award, and we're so proud of all of her achievements. Currently, she works as the Undersecretary OIC of Public Health Services at the Department of Health. I think we all know who she is by now. She has been the face and the voice during the pandemic, and we, of course, very much respect and admire all of the work that she and her team does over at the DOH. So Mike earlier talked about primary health care. So we're going to hear this time from Dr. Beverly Ho, who will give us similarly a reorientation of universal health care naman, or universal health coverage, UHC. When we talk about UHC, what do we mean exactly when we speak about universal health coverage? What are their implications when it comes to our public health priorities? And then maybe later on in the discussion, we can also touch on how far are we in terms of our implementation of UHC here in the Philippines. But of course, for now, we really want to ground our discussion around just reorienting ourselves around those basic fundamental concepts. So over to you, Doc Bev. Kumusta naman? How are you this afternoon?
Hello, Ace, and good afternoon sa inyong lahat. Thank you for organizing this discussion. Excited ako kasi for once hindi UHC Act yung pag-uusapan.
Yes.
And it means we can, sabi nga ni Mike, go back to the basics.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe also dream bigger, di ba? It doesn't mean that since the law is there, hanggang doon na lang din yung pangarap natin. No? So legislations are made by people, so there are always opportunities to improve them, as later on you'll see in the experiences of other countries. No? So sinabi na kanina, it's progressively realized. No? It's an aspiration, and that also means that we probably go through stages, no, like many other countries in achieving it. No? So what we have now is just really a launch point for the next stage. So I'll go ahead na ba?
Right, yes. Please go ahead, Bev. And we're very excited to hear from you. And yes, ano nga ba, let's go back to the basics of UHC. And then from there, we can have a bit more of a discussion after your presentation. So over to you.
Okay, please let me know if the slides are flashing.
Yep, it's coming up.
Okay, meron na.
Loading pa ng konti. So let's just maybe wait for the internet to do its thing.
Meron na. Okay. Let's try one more time.
Okay. Yes, once more with feelings.
Does that work?
Okay, yes. Now it's up there. Very
Okay.
clear.
Thank you very much. So magandang hapon ulit sa inyong lahat. Happy to have this discussion. We intentionally made it short lang because we wanted more time to discuss and dream together. So I guess I'll first start off with what Dr. Bill Shao or William Shao has told me very early on when I met him. So Dr. Shao is one of the authors of this book, Getting Health Reforms Right, which I think is familiar for many people who work in the health system. He was actually one of the architects of the Taiwan UHC. So he's based in the US, advised many other countries, but specifically he worked on Taiwan's UHC model. And we know how successful that is. Basically, what he told me was, the first condition I have when I work with countries, it's a discussion of values. And if we don't, if the secretaries of health, the main policy planners in the country don't want to even have the discussion on values before discussing about the technical aspects of their health reforms, he does not go to those countries. And this is for a person who's really super esteemed in health financing landscape. So hindi siya pupunta, no? At parang nung umpisa, parang hindi ko naintindihan masyado, no? Parang, okay, bakit, diba? But as you will see how reforms unfold in many countries, it will always go back to this, no? What values do the society have? In as much as what values do the leadership have around health? Because we probably couch it under the name of political will, diba? Or my leadership support. But at the end of the day, it actually boils down to values ng system, values ng tao, values ng leaders, no? And when I talk about values of the system, it's not so much just values of the health system. It's really values of your entire country system, no? Whether when you say equity, for example, di lang naman yan equity sa health system, di ba? Kita mo siya sa social structure, public transport, etc. No? So I guess I wanted to just start this discussion by saying, when we talk about UHC, the technical part may distract us, but we shouldn't ever forget that the values that underlie a society dictates a lot how well or how in general your UHC system is designed. Okay. So when, of course, WHO is the technical authority on UHC, and globally it's actually called universal health coverage, no more than universal healthcare, as what we have localized in the Philippines. And very simply, from the perspective of the client, of the patient, makikita mo dito, these are few things, no, that a patient can expect from the healthcare system when you say there's actually UHC. Can you get help from a well-trained health worker? Can you get treatment that helps you get better and is safe? Can you get the medicines and other health products you need? Who will pay for it? Oh? Are there policies in place to make quality services available to everyone every time? And does your government have the information it needs to make the right decision about the entire system? So you can see that it sort of reflects your 6 building blocks, no? But translated in a way that a person will appreciate. However, what you will not see here definitely are things that probably are more some things that we can reflect on more kasi tayo yung nasa back end ng system, no? So these are things that maybe your parents, your child will ask you about, no? Pero yung back end side nito, yun yung mas tayo. And the back end side is often simplified into the box. And no one should have said that they know UHC when they haven't seen this box, no? This box which talks about who is covered, which services are covered, and how much of those services, what proportion of it would be covered. No? And the box inside represents perhaps our progress in simple terms. And in simple terms, your box, if you have a bigger blue box within that transparent box on screen, then you are said to be better in UHC. No? And it might look different for every other country. It could be that we have the entire bottom, no? Population covered halos nasa dulo na, pero mababa yung box, no? Punggok yung box kasi hindi pa tayo magaling sa cost sharing. In the same way, we can also say, okay, we will cover more people, more services, pero siguro 1,000 pesos lang yung cover namin dyan sa lahat, no? As opposed to some other countries going the route of, say, having certain benefit packages, almost through the roof yung coverage, pero konting tao lang, no? So it's really just for the poor, and it's really just for a few services. So there are many ways to grow the box, so to speak, and each country will determine how it will do so depending on its not just financing, its governance structure, its service delivery structure, and definitely its technical capacity. And I will discuss those items when we get to two examples, no? Two popular examples of UHC, which are Thailand, and the National Health Service. Okay. This was mentioned a while ago already about the role of social determinants or non-health aspects in the design of UHC. And the reason why I put this here is really because when you go back to what services will you want to cover, from a planning perspective, and how many people you're covering, you actually need to know how many people are at risk, right? How many people are likely going to need care? Because if you're planning for health facilities, you actually don't plan for everyone to utilize the services every day, no? You actually have just a percentage of those people who will likely get hospitalized. So for example, in the Philippines, the data is 4% of people will likely get hospitalized based on NDHS. No? So ibig sabihin, pag nagka-calculate ka ng kailangan mong hospital beds, you don't calculate it for 100 million Filipinos, di ba? You calculate it for 100 million Filipinos and 4% of them will likely need hospital services at any point in time. So you should have those number of hospital beds, for example. In the same way, if we already know 4% of Filipinos will need admission, then probably among the 96%, how many of them will require outpatient services, diba? And you will need to calculate your primary care health workforce based on that number. So this becomes important because if hindi natin to bantayan, then definitely tataas pa, no, yung kakailanganin natin na infrastructure in order to serve the patients that will come in. And maybe the other guy that everyone needs to know is Geoffrey Rose. No? For everyone who's trained in, I guess, epidemiology, you would be familiar with Mr. or Sir Rose, who put out this bell curve shift in population theory niya. No? So basically what he was saying is that this green bell curve is the bell curve of the normal population. No? So wag niyo munang tingnan yung light green or yung mint green. Just look at the primary green, and on the right-hand base of the curve are people who are said to have higher risk. No? Higher risk for hospitalization, higher risk for death, basically. So typically, when your health system tries to serve these people, what he was saying was that the gains you will have is probably less compared to focusing on the green part, no, or people with normal to low risk. So basically, was saying you want to be able to shift the bell curve so that you have less number of people who will be of higher risk, and then by doing that, you will actually save money, quote unquote, because they will need less intensive or less expensive types of health services. No? So, in simple terms, ano to? No? So, will we build a health system that has more specialty clinics? No? So, kayang-kaya natin magpagamot, sinasabi ni Mike kanina, ng transplant cases, rare types of cancers. No? So, we're serving that red tail of the bell curve. As opposed to, alam natin, for much part of the green box, they will need more simple services, right? Like at the primary care level, we can diagnose their hypertension or diabetes and provide them good counseling, like high quality counseling services, not a 1 minute, oh nanay, kailangan mo mag-exercise, walang salt, etc. Tapos na, no? We're talking about high quality counseling services. We're talking about availability of healthy foods. We're talking about point of care, probably testing that allows them to improve, no, on their adherence to their medications, or even just outpatient drug benefit, no, na mukhang mura pero over the long term mahal, pero mas mura pa rin kaysa magpatayo tayo ng napakaraming cath lab, for example. No? So basically, this is what the entire proposal, no, of Sir Geoffrey Rose is, kaya hindi mo siya ma-de-link, no, doon sa mga iba nating pinag-usapan kanina, which is this box, diba? Because this box is really determined at the back end, even at the back end, by how well you do your public health services, right? Because hindi naman ibig sabihin dito population, lahat lang ng tao, no? For different parts of the population, they will need different types of services, diba? And what Mr. Rose was saying is that you need to be able to focus, no, on which types or which parts of the population you want to be able to serve better so that over the course of many years, mag-accumulate yung benefit mo. And the benefit will really be that you will have less people who will need, no, more and more expensive services. All right. So now let's go to the two examples that we have. So this person is from the Ministry of Public Health in Thailand. And basically what he said years back was that because we are poor, we cannot afford to not have UHC. Which is on the contrary, no, what usually people would say, ay hindi pa natin afford kasi kulang pa tayo ng pera, diba? For the last many years, we've had tobacco taxes, and that actually helped us to create more funding for health, no? But it doesn't really justify not spending more for health. And this is their example, no? If you look at when Thailand launched, quote unquote, their UHC, it was really after the Asian financial crisis, no, when everyone was still reeling from economic issues, no? But you can look at this two ways because I'll show you one other slide, no. So they launched their UHC program in 2002, no, and in 2002, basically they covered everyone else who were not covered by their civil servant medical scheme and their social security scheme, which were both for the employed sector, no, which covered just around 20% of the population. So they tried to cover the remaining 80 with the UHC scheme, no. So kung titingnan nyo mamaya, ang dinagdag basically sa UHC scheme is not just coverage, but a very clear entitlement. Why? No? Bakit clear entitlement? And it's not new services as opposed to what we're trying to introduce in the Philippines. This is a super grainy slide, but I think I really needed to show this. So this came from IHPP, so our Thai colleagues themselves. No? So I got it in the internet, but I think this is really a very, very good representation of why UHC isn't just about financing. No? So in the top part of the slide, that's basically what I showed you kanina, no, dito, which is that they had these schemes, no, the civil servant scheme, the SHS, and the UCS scheme. Nasa taas yan. Pero titingnan nyo, nasa baba. Ano yung nasa baba? No? So 1940s, they established the Ministry of Public Health. But as early as 1960s, I think, they already did mandatory rural service. Before everything, they already had scaling up of the district health system. And by 1970s, they had their primary healthcare policy. What is this telling us? This is telling us that prior to 2002, they had 3, 4, 5 decades worth, no, of investment in their health system, particularly in primary care, no, in health promotion, disease prevention at the primary care level. So when they roll out something that says, everyone, you will be covered, they're confident because the facilities are there. No? So yung primary healthcare policy nila dito, ang sinasabi lang nun is when they had budget, they preferentially put it up for primary care facilities, no, not for hospitals. So they had, I think, a stretch of 5 years, 5 to 10 years, wherein they didn't invest in their hospitals, but they used the money to build more primary care facilities. No? So yun yung sinasabi ng slide na to, no? Parang hindi siya basically just a financing reform. UHC is never about just financing because your service delivery has to be there. Your service delivery layer, your governance layer has to be solid. No? At syempre, Thailand, until now, their governance structure is parang selectively devolved. No? So largely centralized pa rin siya, except for certain jurisdictions that have capacity to do it. No? So basically, parang they're operating really as a nationalized entity. Now, anyone who's met the Thai colleagues would also know that they always present this. No? So they would say that their enabling factors for UHC would be the triangle that moves the mountain. And for this slide, what I wanted to pick on would be bullet 2 and bullet 3. No? So everyone talks about political commitment. Dapat gawin yan ng mga presidente natin, legislators, etc. But I think what we often aren't able to put out as highlight of, say, the Thai system, no, would be their ability to manage a very, very strong civil society group. No? Hindi pala manage, mobilize very, very strong civil society groups. When you talk to them about their parang national health sector meeting, no? It's basically attended by people from all walks of life in Thailand who don't just represent people in Manila, for example. No? So mayroong nag-i-invest talaga sila dito. And part of the investment is providing grants for civil society groups. And I do hope that this the audience today will find it that this is something worth pursuing for us. Not just to say, okay, let's have a good CSO group to be a watchdog, diba? Hindi lang yun, no? Ang dami pang pwedeng gawin. Hindi rin civil society groups to just provide additional services that government can do. But really civil society groups that push the government to be better, that holds government accountable, but also that challenges and provides significant input to how policies are shaped in the country. No? And so hindi siya dapat token participation. And syempre, parte nito is being able to access government. And I think we all have to work together towards making sure, no, na yung trauma from past disbursements of other agencies to CSO groups that are bogus CSOs pala will have to go through that or get over that, because definitely, saan pa ba kukuha ng ready resources yung CSOs? No? It has to be also from government, diba? And this is part and parcel dapat of participatory good governance. And then the last bullet would be technical know-how. Si Dr. Viroj, who's one of the architects of the Thai UHC, a couple of years back, I really also wasn't sure how much are we gonna progress. Wala pa tayong parang very strong political commitment. And then sinabi niya, actually, alam mo, if you don't have the political commitment yet, use that time to build the army for UHC. And again, no, parang ano naman daw sinasabi niyang build the army. Pero sa totoo lang, they were able to do it. They were able to do it in 2002 because back in the late 90s, they already started their IHPP, diba? The International Health Policy Program that does a lot of the policy research. The IHPP gave birth to their HITAP, their HTA team, and several other smaller organizations, no? Thai Health, for health promo. So parang hindi lang, it's not just about political commitment. Okay, tomorrow the president will sign an EO again on whatever, no? We cannot just implement it when we don't have a very, very good technical base. And I think this is why when PSPHP was born, I remember si Lester, Dr. Lester Heroy, was really emphasizing how technical proficiency needs to be re-emphasize, no, in the public health space, because we may have unnecessarily, I guess, put on a pedestal service, no, ability to provide service, being in an underserved area. Yes, that's important. But at the same time, we also need to let other people know. We also need to highlight the importance that it's not because you're in public health, trabaho ka lang ng trabaho, di ba? At okay lang yung trabaho. Nagtatrabaho tayo with a very, very high standard of technical proficiency in what we're doing. And whether you're in policy, whether you're in service delivery, whether you're in advocacy, there's a science to what we're doing. Now, kunwari si Doc Ace, if you've listened to how he and his team designs campaigns, it's really, it really goes down to the scientific base. No? And we need to grow those bases. And we need to make sure our academic institutions kakasabay, no, lahat, that we're on the same page and we can actually magbatuhan, 'di ba? And not one will say we can't discuss with you because we all have very different languages now, no? So we have to bring people together and we need to be able to brainstorm essentially. So just going back to the Thai UHC example, we still need to work very, very hard on bullet 2 and 3, no? 3 MES, may progress tayo, may HTA tayo, pero pag tinanong mo din, no, why can't we evaluate so many more commodities in a year, no? Even we already have the law that says we have an HTA process. And the answer is capacity constraint. Kahit may gustong mag-hire, walang tao, 'di ba? Ngayon pa lang natin i-build yung, dahil may batas, ngayon pa lang natin i-build yung master's program, no, sa UP College of Pharmacy and College of Public Health. Ngayon pa lang magkakaroon ng part ng undergraduate siya ng pharmacist natin, no? So all of these, the technical base of any country will require long-term investments. And we need to make sure na as we look ahead to the future of UHC in the country, we're building both of these very, very important solid base. Sige. So I'll just gloss through these slides to say that that technical base for Thailand served them very well because they did a very, very good evaluation of their UHC rollout, such that you can see these pictures, no? Sinabayan nila ng household surveys yung reform nila. At you can see that from 2022 onwards, the number of household prevented from catastrophic, no, impoverishment, yan, no, sobrang solid, such that no one politician will dare want to take it out because you've shown solid results. And on the right-hand side, you will also see medical impoverishment map before and after UHC. And this is the story we hope to tell. But you will only also be able to tell this story not when you've rolled out very well, but when you have very, very good evaluation capacity within your own country, no? Because before they rolled it out, they designed it so well. Okay? So, merong role dito, sabi naman ni Doc Ice kanina, no? Even if you're not a physician, you're very much part of PSPHP. We're welcoming you. So, our health economists, our statisticians, we also need people like you to make our UHC story complete in the country. So, fast forward to another side of the globe, which is the National Health Service. And for the NHS, I want to be able to, again, show you that the history tells us a lot about value system, no? And what they actually prioritize. In this slide, this is between 1939 to 1975, the history of several reforms within the UK generally, no? So you will see that in 1946, they put out the National Health Service Act. But prior to that and after that, there were some legislations that they put out. O, diba? Their Mental Health Act was in 1956 pa, no? So ang tagal na. And they had the first universal free point of use health system with, ito yung importante, no? State as a dominant purchaser for providers of care, no? But for the hospital, they become the provider of care. Sorry, let me repeat that. No? The state as a dominant purchaser, meaning the state just buys health services. No? The state does not provide health services. So again, this is where discussions around public or more private sector participation in healthcare comes in. No? So the NHS is definitely one of the most revered health systems in the world, regardless of your ideology. But I think it's important for us to point out that the state is their dominant purchaser, at least no, for non-hospital services. But for hospital care, the state is the provider of services. No, medyo baliktad dito sa atin. No? Sa Pilipinas, mas marami tayong hospitals na privatized actually. Tas yung primary care natin, mas public. No? So wala masyadong private except for clinics, no? Standalone clinics. And I think this merits a lot of review, diba? So they're really able to manage cost in their hospital and specialty services because they have that in control, diba? But it's not just managing costs. It's also being able to manage out-of-pocket payment. Because the NHS owns, no, and operates the hospitals, kaya nila dapat i-promise sa buong bansa nila na kapag na-hospital ka, hindi ka magbabayad or very, very predictable yung co-payment mo. No? But generally in the UK, that's close to nothing. Diba? But ibig sabihin, here you will see how the NHS Act is structured. That the risk, no? So for cheaper services, they are relying on the market. Diba? And you have government as the dominant purchaser. But for hospitals where the risk is higher, no? The government bornes the risk. Government bornes the risk. And this is for a system that doesn't use an insurance. No? Walang insurance scheme dito. Pero gusto ko lang ipakita din sa inyo ano yung history ng value system. No? From 1950s, no? So 1590s pala. No? So back in the 16th century, they already have a very good understanding of social protection. No, of how to take care of those who have less in their countries. And it goes along until 1939 before what I showed you na slide. No? So they even already have the National Insurance Act back in 1911. And ironically, no, pag tiningnan nyo, ano yung una niyang kinover? Which is very different from a private insurance scheme. Now, a private insurance scheme first covers what? High-risk hospital services. And this is what you see in America, right? Which does not cover primary care. But here, for a country that values social protection, 1911, they have a social insurance scheme that covers primary care and drugs. They already know it, outpatient drugs, but not hospital treatment. No? So, dapat klaro sa atin na, again, no, for UK, it isn't even, no, medyo wrong na rin to say na nag-umpisa yung NHS ng 1946, diba? Kasi, years ago, their investments in public health and primary care have also started and they're scaling up. No? So, I think this really just tells us, hindi lang na huli tayo, no, pero we have to really begin reprioritizing health promotion, disease prevention through primary healthcare approach. No? Kasi the countries that serve the best services really started here. No? And I think they were able to allocate more resources because nag-invest sila dito. So my last slide would be this, no? Showing you a fund flow of how UK system is financed. No? So the entire money goes to the Department of Health and Social Care, and a huge chunk of it goes to NHS England, which provides the care part. No? But you will see that from the 130 billion, may malalagas, no, na 11.7 billion. And that goes for vaccinations, public health, training of health workers, and regulation. Basically, parang your DOH. No? But a huge part of the money goes to NHS England. And here, I just would want to emphasize that NHS England per se does not purchase the service. They actually go through the CCGs or clinical commissioning groups, which are their purchasers in locality. No? So ito yung nakikipagkontrata sa mga private general practitioners in the area to say ito yung mga covered mo na mga population. No? So whether or not this is reflected in our PhilHealth, yung PhilHealth ngayon kahit may regional office siya, they all function the same way as the national. No? But siguro yung malaki kong tanong is, itong CCG ba yung dapat maging model ng province and citywide health system, 'di ba? Kasi kung sa kanila yung special health fund, sila yung kakausap no sa mga providers within their locality. No, so is this a mirror of what we actually have put out? This is just another graph to show you clearly no na ang linaw sa kanila how much is being spent in the devolved setup. No? And I do hope that we will be able to replicate this kasi ngayon, hindi natin alam how much of health is being spent for by our LGUs. No? Salamat sa mga LGUs na suportado pero it's not as clear as this. But basically, may clear delineation sa kanila. And I go back to the 3 points no, of designing your UHC system. The financing has to be clear. The governance has to be very clear. And then you have the service delivery laid out for you. And for the UK system, clear sa kanila. No? Meron silang years of investment. Mas handle nila yung hospitals and yung primary care clinics. They just allow the private sector to thrive and they pay the private sector, but as a dominant purchaser, meaning they can control cost at their level kasi sila yung bumibili ng serbisyo. So I think I will stop there. Medyo matagal na. Maraming salamat for your kind attention and back to you, Ace.
Thank you so much, Bev. No, again, a very comprehensive discussion around universal healthcare. And before I say anything, because I received two direct messages na gusto makibate. Belated happy birthday, Bev. But I think ikaw yung nagbigay ng gift sa amin today, no, with your very comprehensive discussion on universal healthcare, including the excellent examples from Thailand and the UK. So belated happy birthday. I particularly like how you opened your discussion, and if you're looking at the messages right now, it really did hit a bit of a nerve, no, that at the end of everything, or rather maybe at the beginning of any path towards health reform, it's really a question of values. And my suspicion, although this is only my hypothesis with a sample of, 58, that it generated a bit of a reaction because the health system as we have now is not reflective of who we are. Our values as Filipinos. It is not reflective of the best of who we are as Filipinos. And therefore, there is that desire to really improve on our system so that it better reflects who we really are as a people. So a lot of questions have been coming in, and I will try to kind of summarize them and really have a bit of a discussion with both of you. So, Mikes, you started off our webinar this afternoon with a discussion on primary healthcare, the differences and overlaps with other similar concepts, and really the challenges that face the implementation of primary healthcare. And that was followed by you, Bev, where you talked about universal healthcare or universal health coverage as it's more widely known outside the Philippines, but really grounding it on a question of values. And I also particularly appreciate your emphasis on system strengthening, systems development. And also that and I've heard that concept before many times. I also like that you highlighted the triangle that moves the mountain. No? Kasi nga, there is a tendency for us to focus too much on political commitment when in fact there are other avenues that we should be working on also: civil society mobilization, technical capacity, and so on and so forth. So what I've noticed, what I've noticed just listening to both of you, and of course, keeping in mind that our audience today are primarily physicians, there's a lot of, shall we say, tensions that you will have to navigate as we continue on this journey. So I'd like to invite siguro your reflections on a couple of these tensions, which I also got from the chat. I think one of the main tensions is, of course, no, we are all products of our medical education as it was when we learned medicine and we earned our MDs. Right now, there are efforts towards improving or enhancing that curriculum, but we are all products of that curriculum, no? And all of the other doctors since then. So, Mike, you emphasized earlier, in primary healthcare, it's really about engaging with all of these other sectors outside of health. But our training is very clinically oriented, obviously, di ba? Parang we learn anatomy, pathophysiology, biochemistry, even if you like it or not, whether you like it or not. As a doctor, how am I supposed to now meaningfully engage with these other sectors that, to your point, are very important in addressing those social determinants, when that's really not where I'm coming from? What is the role of the physician in this multi-sectoral engagement? Of course, you and a couple of our colleagues are maybe the exception because you trained in these different fields, no? But for other physicians whose background is really clinical, medical pa nga, any thoughts or insights you can share about how doctors can navigate this tension?
Sa akin, I usually when I engage with like no, we always I try to start with some paradigms that can explain paradigm explanations or paradigm slides that help explain. But if we are to talk to fellow doctors, I think we can appeal to their deep interest on serving the patient, and attaining the best health for the patient. I think if we are going to do that, doon natin mapapalawak yung social dimensions of health on how we are going to ensure that this patient will not anymore have to back to you. So yung hirap nga lang nun is that not all people will be inclined expand their horizons in helping the society, and that's okay kasi I think we all have a role to play. But I think what's important now is to be able to align. So halimbawa kung doktor ka, gusto mo makapagsilbi, wala ka naman pakialam kung anong gobyerno meron dyan. Sige, pagsilbihan mo yan. Pero for example, if you have standards that we need to uphold that is deemed exceptionally accepted for the poor, then hopefully you can participate. Pero that needs foundational aspects na parang sa pagtuturo pa lang, what's our sense of citizenry? Na tayo'y parte ng mas malaking group. So that's a challenge to all our educators. Right. Pero those that are already practicing, we have to recognize that they will protect their turf. Another thing, may mga specialists kasi dito, mahirap na mahirap when you discuss primary healthcare and they feel like they're put on the on the sidelines.
Right.
Pagka pinag-uusapan ng UHC and primary healthcare. And I think that's something that we need to change, Kasi everybody has a role to play, and specialists will have to band together to determine standards. So there are roles to play to unfold UHC.
That's a very important point that you mentioned, Mike's, and it actually came up in the comments. And I'll pivot this to Bev. If I am a specialist clinician, I am not, let's say I'm not a public health practitioner in the common sense of the term. Should I feel threatened with universal health care, with all of these reforms? Should I feel that this will, siguro, let's just put it plainly, will this take patients away from my practice? Should I now have to totally reorient the way I do things because of all of these different changes that are coming up?
Thank you. Very real question. Most asked question by our specialists. I answer it this way. One would be that the reforms that we want to happen is actually requiring a generational shift, diba?
Right.
So even if we say, okay, we want it to happen in 5 years' time, it's probably not as easy, no? Except if there will really be extraneous circumstances of, kung sobrang hirap ng buhay in the next few years because of the war, etc., climate change, which we really wouldn't be able to predict, no?
Sure.
And there will be a decision for government to really pay for services because people will not be able to provide for their own as they are able to do now, no? So hindi ko din discount yun. Pwedeng mangyari. Pero if basically we go by the current economic structure, no? Kasi ang health naman is always part of the bigger economy ng bansa. If we go by the current economic structure, I would say that the biggest impact should be in health education and training. And it's really because we have to collectively train the next set of people knowing that this is the new system. And yung kinalakihan ko at ng mami ko na doktor, hindi na yun yung practice, no, na mangyayari in the future. Next point will also be that if for those who are currently practicing or still in the early part of their practice now, important to note that if you want to continue to serve the top 1-2% of the population, siguro for the reformers in the system, we will not we have more important segments to work on, diba? So, okay, you go buy your own. As long as your patients will say, nagbabayad ako sa PhilHealth, di ko siya magamit. Pero okay lang kasi sobrang yaman ko, no? So, sige, tuloy lang kayo sa practice nyo. But definitely, if your patient will begin saying, I want to maximize my PhilHealth, then maybe they will not see you anymore, no? So it really depends who you're serving. And then maybe the next level would be, now we know PhilHealth is paying practitioners whether or not you follow the, whether or not you follow the co-payment limits, diba? But syempre, if we really want to, sabi nga ni Mike, go back to the patient and serve the patient, then basically the insurance system, the public insurance system should gravitate towards practitioners, of course, pay them a fairer fee, but also gravitate or selectively contract practitioners who will be able to promise what the government wants to promise, diba? Which is, ito lang, 500 lang yung copay mo kahit gano'n ka katagal na sa ospital. Yung mga ganyan, no? So, you also need to decide. But syempre, it will take time, no? As we improve the benefit packages. And then lastly, I think kasi si Ma'am Kate may question din, ano na mangyari sa specialist providers?
Yes.
This is how I look at it, and this is backed up by facts, diba? Definitely, when you grow your primary care cadre, you will be able to screen more patients. And it doesn't mean that pag nag-primary care ka na, wala nang aakyat, diba? Because you will actually get them earlier. You will actually need to be able to refer them earlier, no? So yung miss under over referral, mafi-fix din natin yun dapat with a good primary care system. So it doesn't mean that just because we're gonna do all primary care, we will not invest in specialist care. And it also doesn't mean we shouldn't train, no? Kasi may specialty society din nagtanong sa akin na, hindi na ba kami magte-train? Kasi puro primary care na ba yung kailangan? Parang hindi, no? Kasi to begin with, yung base natin ngayon, kulang ka pa rin ng specialista, di ba? Hindi naman tayo nag-uumapaw sa specialista tas walang primary care. Mas marami ka lang kulang sa primary care, pero kulang pa rin yung specialist mo, no? So, I think we just need to really work together to come up with the balance for the future. But everyone else's skills is needed. Everyone else's commitment will be needed, no? But in as much as gusto natin lahat na maging accelerated siya. Alam naman natin, no, may sistema tayong inaayos at hindi siya ganun kadali.
Right. So what I'm hearing from both of you is, of course, there is a need for a paradigm shift. Definitely in terms of our formal education, the curriculum itself, but even the conversations that we're having, no? Having a common vision, for example, is a good start, but also having a shared language, a shared experience that we can all anchor our experience. Now, at the end of the day, we all, I assume, we all went into this profession because we have that desire to serve other people, to serve our patients, our families, communities. And if we start with that common orientation, that maybe that can be a good place to start. And siguro, the other thing I'm hearing from both of you is the agenda is so big that it shouldn't be mutually exclusive. No, it's not as if that we will exclude specific people. Everybody has a role to play in universal health coverage or universal healthcare and primary healthcare. Mike, you had your hand raised. Did you want to follow up with a comment?
Yeah. Doon sa part where we need to determine the numbers. This is very technically, there's a technical requirement or technical expertise to really determine the numbers of how many specialists we will need, and also primary care physicians and also primary care practitioners. So yun yung wala pa tayo. And para hindi nagkakaroon ng turf wars, no? And also the spread has to also be determined. For that to happen, we have to have a very clear layout. And I think the blueprints are one of the challenges. Kasi is when you're given a vision, it doesn't have specifics. So, ayun, yun yung siguro lahat tayo magtutulungan to determine that. Ang iniisip ko nga, parang ang daming kulang na specialist, bakit makukulangan pa? Ay, bakit natatakot tayo mo?
Oo nga, I think, and I've heard that in other forums also said, no, wag kayong mag-alala, hindi kayo maubusan ng pasyente. There are so many Filipinos who need specialist services, and in fact, they are complementary. No? Strong primary healthcare or primary care system does and will complement a strong specialist network also. This next tension naman, I'd want to start with Bev. And I think, Bev, you talked a lot about the history of universal healthcare. And you also gave a lot of good insights from Thailand and the UK. So there is also this tension between the individual and the environment. And I suppose which of the two should we focus on? Or obviously the answer is we should work on both. From your experience, siguro on the one side muna, the individual, and this ties to the idea of health literacy. How do we meaningfully engage people in this conversation, diba? We want it to be bottoms up. Universal healthcare is really grounded on these principles of social justice and equity. How do we make sure that the voice of people are reflected in these conversations, but in a meaningful way? Hindi yung tokenism lang na, sige, we'll invite somebody and then we tick that box. Any insights or reflections you can share with us regarding that?
For me, grassroots organizations play a very big role in bringing people together, in organizing. And 'di ba ito naman yung justification lagi bakit tayo nag-devolve until municipal level.
Right.
Supposedly because your ability to do social listening and addressing the problem is actually better at that level. But I think what happened for us is the political system became very separate from the participation system of people. And I probably am not the best person to talk about it, but in the work that we do in health promo, we rely a lot on our partners. Because even the DOH, we're only until the regional level. Whatever social listening you can do to improve your your messages, etc., may limits ka on how best it could be. And for example, just to talk about participating in the vaccination campaign. iba pa din yung effect ng actual having local social mobilizers on the ground to
Right.
do the mobilization, di ba? So yun yung una sa akin. Pangalawa is we start early. Maybe now it's not as apparent to people that health is part and parcel of their work, right? And that's because in our school, health is also so compartmentalized. And this is why maybe also to the work that we do is to bring in a better perspective in the health curricula, no, and not so much in just the reading materials, etc., but actually a good experience of health within the spaces ng school, di ba? Kasi lalaki yung new generation mo thinking na this is part and parcel of what I need to have. Hindi lang kung matyaga yung magulang ko or may oras siya na dalhin ako sa health center, di ba? Parang I know health. I know health in terms of the sports activities we do in school.
Right.
I know health because pinapaalalahanan kami sa canteen namin, etc., etc. No? And maybe the other part of it is, ano ko ba sasabihin? It's maximizing a doctor's social capital, which in a place like the Philippines is still mile high. No? Parang
Absolutely.
kahit ayaw natin, nasa pedestal pa rin yung doktor sa Pilipinas. And sa marami sa atin who are still practitioners, how do you think are some of the policies and legislations put out? It's because some congressman or some senator listen to someone who saved their or their family's lives, diba? And sometimes it just so happens na maybe hindi masyadong aligned, no? Or so parang I think we have to recognize those powers, and that the more we talk about it, the more the ideas become mainstream, the more someone who wants to advise some powerful people will get to hear about these and say, oh, maybe hindi ako masyadong expert dyan kung tawagan ko na lang yung PSPHP. May narinig akong webinar, baka sila na lang yung mag-advise sa'yo. Because I think parang doon tayo nabablindside eh. Madaming may gusto tumulong sa health. Pero people come in from different perspectives. I don't know if I diverted from your question, but I think it goes back to hindi parang any person at what level can actually be powerful. And so we need to make sure that the right messages reach these people so that they are able to champion what needs to be championed.
Right. No, thank you, Bev. I think that was really insightful. No? It really goes back to, I guess, a deeper reflection on the role of a physician in this journey. Diba, we like to describe the 5-star physician, and isang star doon, of course, is being a social mobilizer. No? And that really is rooted in, as you said, all of the, shall we say, the natural social capitals that is vested on the white coat, the proverbial white coat, and how we can use our influence, no, whether it's in large or small circles, to really have these conversations and to drive them forward. Now, I'll ask the same question of Mike's also, but Mike's, obviously the work that you do brings you to many different places all over the country. And earlier on, you did say there are maganda yung metaphor na ginamit mo, there are lights in this tunnel that you're seeing. So in the same way, no, that you in your explanation around primary healthcare, social mobilization, community engagement, these are very core themes around primary healthcare. Can you give us a picture of how is this happening, no, in different parts of the country? Para lang we can maybe crystallize in our heads how that looks like, and maybe extend the same influence wherever we are working.
For example, in the work that we did in Davao, one of the things that we made sure is that there is a method to cascade a vision, so that it becomes from from a national to become nationwide. So it means everyone, for UHC to happen, there can be a million ways to do it, no? But with one direction. Now, once you do that, nandun ka na sa barangay. if you can, halimbawa Davao was particular on communicating walang nanay at anak ang mamamatay dahil sa panganganak. Everyone knew what they want to play, what role they would want to play. But placing that into a performance accountability system na kung saan si barangay captain is willing to make that an indicator of his success. Na 100% ng mga nanay ay nagpa-check up ng ferrous sulfate, ay nag-take ng ferrous sulfate on the first trimester because yun yung na-promise ng mga nanay na contribution nila to make health better. Then that's one very good example. And then it moves up the rank. Iba-iba ang commitments ng bawat mayor, then the governor, and then pero it starts with the people. Ang gusto nating i-veer away from is a static scorecard, no? Kasi everyone has different and if you have a static scorecard, it's very different for very difficult for people to get in the picture. Another is actually meron akong 2 slides na I can share kasi nagamit ko nakalagay doon sa presentation ko to, pero if there's links to
Let's see.
Sige. Doon sa slide na meron ako on a work that we did sa in essence kapag papatupad mo kasi ang involvement ng community, yung hub and spoke model is very easy to say, no, na parang primary care unit pero magre-refer, pero halimbawa diniscuss namin to sa Tanza, and just to link the clinical private facilities, this is in credit to USATV platforms where I work with them. Ay tiningnan namin ano ba yung ginagawa ng community to screen their patients. Nandyan yung jails, nandyan yung pharmacies, nandyan yung community-based organization, nandyan yung Rebisco, Ecotown. Paano natin siya ililink para makasama ng rural health unit in giving primary care services? Kasi sila yung nakakakita ng mga workers, and how do we create that linkage? So, by providing them a picture of what their network would look like and what type of relationship they can have with a provider, that essentially tracks or demonstrate how everybody can start playing a role in making health everybody's business, no? Dami pati dito sa halimbawa sa amin, schools and civil society organizations in Quezon are also we're trying to link their activities to the rural health unit. So ang hirap gawin kasi you need to negotiate with them and then to know what their concerns are and how we can help. So again, it begins with paradigm, and then next is building the trust, and then establishing the relations. So, and then creating performance accountability systems around. So yun, mahirap lang siyang gawin dahil it takes years to do.
Yes, absolutely. But I like that you end on the point about building relationships, diba? Which I feel is something we don't acknowledge as much. It's no different siguro from taking the paradigm of our clinician colleagues, no? Building rapport, good bedside manner, etc. A lot of that, the patient-doctor relationship, also extends to public health work. Building your relationships, extending your stakeholders, making sure everyone is involved, has a stake in the decision-making process. And I also appreciate your point about having formal structures for all of these feedback mechanisms or loops to take place, diba? Para hindi lang siya, yun nga, we want to avoid tokenism here, di ba? Na, sige, invite natin para lang masabi na nag-engage tayo with the community. But really, first, acknowledging that it should start from them. No? What is important to them? And then build the systems from there. We're about already almost on the end of our webinar, and there are still a lot of comments coming in. Unfortunately, we won't have time to go through all of the comments and the questions, but we really appreciate the active engagement in the message board. No? Really appreciate all of the feedback, especially may mga good one-liners dito. Gusto ko lang sabihin na I think, si Doc Jackie na kahit mahirap man o mayaman, dapat nandun ang bayanihan at excellence. Diba? Very excellent point. And I think that really speaks to what we're trying to say here. Siguro last 2 comments na lang or reflections from both of you. One, of course, we are still in the early stages of a new administration. So a new cadre of national and local leaders where, as Bev, you pointed out, who knows, we might be in a position to influence their decision-making around local priorities, etc. Now, I know you mentioned that sometimes we overemphasize political commitment, no? Totally acknowledge that. I guess what I'm just saying here is that health is very political, and we have to acknowledge that there are a lot of political considerations here. So if you had this opportunity to dialogue with a decision maker, a leader, etc., how do we frame UHC and primary healthcare really as more of an investment rather than an expense? That's a common tension that we hear. No? Parang it's too expensive, too complicated, we cannot afford it. But as Thailand has pointed out, we cannot not afford to invest in primary healthcare and universal healthcare. So I'll start with you, Mike, now again, because you talk with a lot of people in the ground, local communities. Ano bang what is our elevator pitch? What's our argument here? How do we say that this is really an investment for the future?
Sa akin firstly, it's very difficult to come up with a very particular line. I don't want to be also known of a particular line kasi I'm a reflective speaker. So kung ano yung binabato mo sa akin, yun yung sasabihin ko din sa'yo pagka ikaw yung mayor na kausap. And kung ano din yung ugali na binabato. So the way that, pero usually, ang madalas kumurot is paano natin masisigurado na wala tayong mapag-iiwanan. Very particular ang mga leaders, no, on how they can reach the unreached. Di ba? So, pagka ginawa mo yon at the start of usually at the start of the conversation, sino ba ang pinaka napag-iiwanan, na-entice na sila to further discuss with you kasi yun yung malaking concern nila. So, pagka nag-form ka ng reforms around that, you're solving their own problems. Yung sakit ng ulo nila, pinapasa mo sa sarili mo at tinaako mo. So, I think that's a good elevator pitch to start working together.
Yes, leaving nobody behind. No? Very Filipino nga naman. I think that speaks a lot to our own values. No? Ikaw naman, Bev, I mean, of course, a lot of people are probably advocating to you as a decision maker yourself, but you also find yourself in many of these conversations talking to national, local leaders, other colleagues in government. What is your pitch when you talk about universal healthcare and why it's so important to the future of the country?
Okay, do I have 5 minutes? Joke lang. Gusto ko lang i-share lang bago ko sabihin yung pitch ko ay...
Sige.
I was in a flight yesterday and I sat beside an OFW. And sinabi niya sa akin, so hindi niya alam, no, na nagka-DOH ako. Pero sabi niya sa akin, alam mo kaya hindi na talaga ako uuwi sa Pilipinas eh. Kasi ang ayos ng healthcare namin sa Rome.
Wow.
Nung nanganak ako, wala akong ginastos. Yung anak ko, 1-year-old kasi yung baby niya. Nung kailangan siyang ma-hospital, wala akong kailangang bayaran. Basta, tama lang sa record ko na nagbabayad ako ng tax, wala akong kailangan alalahanin. Yung tatay ko nasa Pilipinas, na-admit siya, 1 linggo lang, buong month ko na sweldo, 2,000 euros, ginastos ko para sa kanya. So paano kami ma-e-engganyo ng gobyerno na umuwi? Healthcare pa lang, hindi na kayang ibigay. No, parang I didn't actually really expect that among the many issues that they would have of the Philippines,
right,
is healthcare, diba? And I think now more than ever, people appreciate what it means na may sasalo sa'yo, diba? Kung maayos yung healthcare system, no? So I guess I go back to your question, which is, and so it's really again a push na, okay, this work has to be done, ang hirap niya, pero kailangan natin lahat pagtulungan, no? Otherwise, we'll really, anyway. So my pitch is always, hindi always, I would want to always be able to say to them, posible siya. No? Hindi siya mangyayari one go sa buong Pilipinas, pero nakita na natin na posible siya in a facility, for example, in in a municipality na may very, very strong commitment, no? At very tangible. Alam natin na nag-work siya in these settings. Hindi siya nangyari ng magic kasi they really had good management, apart from political skills, di ba? Political will nung LCE or kunwari hospital chief, no? Pero ako babalik ako dun hindi pala siya imposible kasi nangyari na siya sa ibang parte ng Pilipinas. Na ibang-iba yung experience namin nung intern kami, no? Intern tayo versus ngayon, kunwari, no? In PGH. Maraming excuse yun kasi PGH has maraming resources, etc., etc. But I suppose, as I go around, the stories hindi naman nauubos din ng positive, no? Syempre, lagi lang mas marami yung negative na lalabas. Pero, posible natin ibigay yung UHC. Lalong-lalo na ngayon, mas may pera yung sistema. Mas nag-i-invest. At I think we shouldn't let this golden moment pass na habang naalala pa nila ang COVID at ang implication of not investing in the health system in the time of a pandemic, habang naalala pa yan ng mga powers that be, we have to forge ahead and make them invest more. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Yes, I think that sounds like a good campaign, no, for UHC next year. Posible siya. So balikan natin yan siguro. Oo rin, Mike. I think it also applies in many other aspects of life, not just in universal healthcare. Okay, so as a final question, but I'll give you time to reflect on this while we wrap up the webinar. So I'll go back to what Bev said, no, that our health system should reflect our values as Filipinos, as a people. So if I were to ask you, what Filipino values, if you were to imagine the ideal Filipino health system and describe those or that in terms of a Filipino value or values, what values would you like that system to represent? So I'll give you a moment to think about that. For our participants for those who joined us this afternoon, again, on behalf of the Philippine Society of Public Health Physicians, maraming salamat po. We hope that you found this webinar helpful, insightful in giving us a reorientation of these fundamental concepts in public health, universal healthcare, primary healthcare, and really expanded your point of view as to our role in this important endeavor as we reform our health system. This is also the first Talk PH webinar of the PSPHP that has PRC CPD points. So yung mga kailangan na po mag-renew or yung mga hindi pa kailangan mag-renew pero nag-iipon ng CPD points, if you want your CPD points for your webinar, kindly go to the web page shown in your screen right now. And I'm going to ask the Secretariat to please send the link on the chat box. The link daw is not working, so we'll double check kung paano, if there's any problems with the link. But if you wish to get a certificate, please make sure that you register here. And if there are problems with the link, we'll go back to you po, okay? So again, thank you so much to our resource persons, Dr. Michael Campued and Dr. Beverly Ho, very esteemed colleagues of the PSPHP for their time. No, it's a Saturday afternoon. I know both of you are extremely busy people, so we really appreciate your time. And of course, your commitment to public health and sharing your insights and your reflections today. Now, for those of you who are not yet members of the PSPHP, as we mentioned earlier, our doors are wide open. It's a growing organization. Kita nyo naman, it's a dynamic organization. Public health is such an exciting field kasi ang lawak ng scope ng public health. So if you're not yet a member, we welcome physicians from all fields, including non-physicians in public health roles, and of course, our students. So if you're interested to join, I think the link was already shared in the chat box. But yes, send us a message, contact us through Facebook or email. We'll be more than happy to welcome you. And on a final note, December 12 is Universal Healthcare Day. So in whatever way, you can share on social media, on your Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. There will be a lot of organizations campaigning on the day, really highlighting the role of UHC. Definitely, PSPHP will be joining in this campaign. So watch out for any materials we will be sharing on social media. The WHO, the Department of Health, we usually put out materials for this day. So December 12, let's use that as an opportunity to engage with a wider public. As Mike and Bev have established, it's really about talking about this topic more and more so that people really understand and really appreciate that everybody has a role if our goal is health for all. Okay, so balikan ko muna kayo. So if you were to describe the ideal Filipino health system in terms of Filipino values, what values would you use to describe that? So I'll start muna with our birthday celebrant and TOYM awardee. Bev, ano ba to? Malambing ba? Masayahin? Anong values ang that you would use to describe this ideal Filipino health system?
Siguro 2 words. Ideal, no? Ideal naman.
Ideal naman. Oo.
Okay. I think yung 2 words ko ay magalang.
Magalang.
No? Both in terms of respectful and polite. Sometimes polite to a fault. Na gagalangin niya yung karapatan ng tao regardless of your orientation, social status, etc. So that basically it's respectful of people, privacy, etc. The other one is kalinisan, no?
Okay.
'Di ba yung mga Pilipino, known tayo 2-3 beses naliligo sa isang araw.
Correct.
I hope kung ano yung linis sa katawan, makita natin sa linis ng sistema, no? Be it in terms of fund flow, be it in terms of like benefits na hindi maraming nahuhulog fall into the crack. Basically, malinis yung proseso. So it's easy. It's easy and it will be refreshing after mo maligo, diba? It's refreshing for people to go through the health system and not such a burden.
Okay, thank you, Bev. Magalang at saka malinis. To our president naman, President Campued, if you were to describe the ideal Filipino health system in terms of our Filipino values, which values would you use to describe it?
Sa akin, since nangangailangan tayo talaga na very solid front na nagkakaisa tayo, napakahalaga sa akin yung appeal dun sa ating pakikipagkapwa.
Okay.
Bilang value. At nandun din yung yung mapagkalinga, no? Hindi maitatakwil sa atin na napakahalaga yung na inaalala natin ang pag-aalaga sa pamilya, sa sarili. Bakit hindi natin ibigay sa bayan yon? At yung huli na siguro is yung mapagmahal, dahil siguro ang Pilipino ay very very emotional emotional people, and if we are not to appeal to pagmamahal, then we are not Filipino at all. So yon, I think that will help in building.
Thank you, Mike. I think that's just a great way to end this weekend's webinar, and I hope that we've inspired everyone here to really imagine what a Filipino health system, an ideal Filipino health system could look like, and how we can all contribute to making that dream a reality. So maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong lahat, at sana may natutunan tayo ngayong hapon para lahat tayo ay magtrabaho tungo sa isang health system na magalang, malinis, mapagkalinga, nakikipagkapwa at saka mapagmahal. So at the end of the day, it's really all about love, isn't it? So thank you so much to our resource persons. Thank you to the Secretariat for putting this webinar together, to Dr. J.R. Ong and the rest of the PSPHP Secretariat. Thank you to everyone for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. Again, ako po si Dr. Jason Ligot, your moderator for this afternoon. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend po. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Okay, thank you. Open mic na tayo. Yan, everyone.
Thank you.